I want to start this episode with something I haven't said out loud yet. Over the last several months, through leaving my multi-site role, opening Kairos, working on acquisition strategy, and juggling some personal things at the same time, I fell off. And guys, I don't mean I had a bad week. I mean, the discipline that used to be automatic for me, case reviews, morning routines, the way I would start every day with like a clear head and a clear plan, they just stopped. And I think the part that most of you will recognize is it happened in the exact season I needed those habits the most. I had a new clinic, new brand, new everything, honestly. And the days just kind of stopped looking normal. And when the days stop looking normal, the habits go first. Even when those habits are the only thing that would have made that chaos manageable. We're all human, right? So a few weeks ago, I picked up Atomic Habits again. I had read it years ago and I thought I knew it. And honestly, the reason I picked it up wasn't because I'd forgotten what it said. It was because I had forgotten to live it in these really, really critical moments for me. And after reading it the second time and after living through what happens without it, it hit really differently. Every chapter, I kept seeing the same thing. This isn't just a book about personal habits. This book is about how to build an aesthetic medicine practice, how to be a great clinician in this space, and how to operate a clinic that actually compounds instead of just runs. So that's what this episode is. This is not a book review. I'm not going to walk you through every single chapter. This is my translation. I'm taking the frameworks James Clear lays out and I'm mapping them onto what we actually do every day as operators, clinicians, as people building something we want to last. I'll focus on 3 concepts that I think every single person in this space needs to understand. And then I'll give you a practical framework you can start using tomorrow. At the end of the episode, I'm going to give you something that you can download to actually do the work, not just listen to it, for those of you who want to actually take it a step further. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to Kairos Conversations. This is a space for clinicians, leaders, and operators who are building in the aesthetic medicine space with intention. We take the data, the experience, and the real-world challenges of this industry and turn them into clarity you can actually use. I'm Taylor Siemens, nurse practitioner, operator, and founder of Kairos. I know that in this field, it's not just about what you do. It's about when you do it and how you lead through it. Let's dive in. There is a line in this book that I think every clinic owner needs, like tattooed somewhere, everywhere they can see it every morning. Do my forehead, but whatever. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. I'm going to read that again because I need to make sure you hear this. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And here's what that means in plain English. Every number you care about on your P&L is downstream of a system. Your rebooking rate is not a goal, it's an output. Retention rate, not a goal, it's an output. Average ticket size, that's not a goal, it's an output. Consult conversion, not a goal, an output. All of those numbers are produced by something upstream, and that something is the system. Here's the test I want you to actually do while you're listening. Pick one number on your P&L that you want to move this quarter. Just one, okay? Hold it in your mind. Now, can you name the system that produces that number in one sentence? If you can't, that's not a goal you're chasing. It's simply a wish you are hoping for. Now, I'm going to give you a really specific example from my own work. Rebooking rate. If you've been in this industry for any length of time, you've heard the benchmark. Most consultants will tell you that they want you to aim for a rebooking rate of like 50% or higher, okay? And for a long time, earlier in my career, the way I tried to hit that number was the way most operators are trying to hit it. I focused on the front desk, asking everybody, mentioning it at checkout, hoping the patient was ready to take the next step in that moment. On their way out the door with a card already in their hand, their mind has moved on, right? That is a goal without a system. And it produces the results you'd expect from a goal without a system. Inconsistent. Depending on who's working the front that day, it's dependent on whether the patient happened to feel good about their experience in literally like the last 60 seconds of it. Here's what changed. At Kairos, we stopped treating rebooking as a front desk task, and we started treating it as the output that it really is of something much further up the stream. We focused on the experience, focused on the trust. We focused on building thorough, thoughtful treatment plans, the kind where the patient understands where they are in their journey, exactly where they're going, and exactly why the next visit matters. We took the time to actually get to know our patients, and crazy part, this is the part most clinics skip, we let them know us back. Because trust is not one directional. They're not just trusting our hands, they're trusting that the money they're spending with us is going to have a positive return for them. And that kind of trust is not built at checkout with the front desk. It's built in the treatment chair, in the consultation, in the way we listen, in the detail of the plan. So here's the result. Our rebooking rate over the last 8 months is averaging 70%. That's 20 points above the industry benchmark. And I want to be really clear about this number. The number isn't a testament to some better like script at the front desk. It's a testament to the level of detail that my team and I put into every single appointment. The rebooking rate is the output. The system that produces it is everything that happens in the room long before the patient ever steps out of it back to the checkout. That's what systems over goals looks like in practice. The number isn't the work. The number is the result of the work. Okay, so let me name some of the systems that I think every clinic needs to architect, and most don't. Your consult flow. This is the system behind consult conversion. The pre-intake form that captures concerns before the patient even sits in the chair, or in our case, even comes in the clinic. The discovery script, financial conversation framework, the close, your pre-checkout conversation. This is all a system behind your rebooking rate. It's to build it into your workflow so that no patient leaves the chair without a rebooking conversation. Not whoever happens to be working at the front that day, your follow-up cadence. This is the system behind retention, the 48-hour clinician check-in, 2-week photos, 6-week revisit invitation. Either it runs automatically or it doesn't run at all. Okay. The photography discipline, same angles, lighting, same cadence, every patient, every visit. This is the system behind your clinical growth, your brand, your case library, marketing, all of it. It is all a system that can be named, and we need to actively be working on it. Now, here's the tension that I want to name, because I know some of you are thinking it. I have thought about it a long time and am constantly balancing it. Medicine, aesthetic medicine, is a relationship business, and relationships resist systemization. A great consult is a part of a script. It's part presence. Now, here's a tension I want to name, because I know some of you are thinking of it. I do a lot. Aesthetic medicine, it's a relationship business. All medicine is, right? And relationships resist systemization. A great consult is part script, part presence. You can systemize the structure, the discovery, education, recommendation, financial conversation, the close, but the part that converts is the part that feels unsystematized to the patient. So how do you systematize a relationship business without turning your clinic into this like drive-through? Here's how I think about it. The system isn't the script. The system is what produces the conditions for the relationship to happen. Lighting, room temperature, how long the patient waits, whether the provider has reviewed the chart before walking in, if there's water on the table waiting for that patient, whether the consultation feels rushed because the schedule's overbooked. Systematize the conditions and leave the relationship to the human. So here's what I want you to take from this segment. Stop setting revenue goals without naming the system that produces them. If you can't name the system in one sentence, you don't have a goal, you have a wish. And I hate to tell you, but wishes do not compound. This next concept is the one I think most clinicians and operators in this space completely miss. And I missed it for a long time too. James Clear talks about three layers of behavior change: outcomes, what you want to achieve; processes, what you do; and identity, who you believe you are. And he makes this argument that most people, if you think about it like a ball, they work from the outside in. They focus on outcomes, they try to build processes, and identity is the last thing to think about. But the people who actually change durably and permanently, well, we work from the inside out. We start with identity and then work out to the other two. Here's what that sounds like in practice. Saying, I want to be a great injector is an outcome. It's a wish. I am the kind of clinician who reviews every case. That's an identity. It's who you are. These are different sentences and produce very different lives. And here's why this matters so much. Outcome-based habits rely on motivation. And motivation, guys, is finite. You will have days when you don't feel motivated. You will have weeks when the motivation is gone entirely. I just left them, okay? Identity-based habits rely on self-concept, and self-concept is stable. You don't wake up unsure of who you are. The clinician who reviews every case doesn't ask themselves every night whether they feel like doing that. They just review the cases because it's who they are. The decision was made years ago. The habit is just an expression of the identity. Let me give you examples of identity statements I think are worth adopting on the clinical side, and let's see if they resonate with you. I am the kind of clinician who photographs every patient, every visit, at the same angles, every time. Not when I remember, every time. I am the kind of clinician who reviews complications and near misses, not just my wins. I am the kind of clinician who refers out a case when it's outside of my zone. I'm the kind of clinician who tells patients the truth, including when the answer is not yet or not me. And for our operators listening to this, here's some you could try out. I'm the kind of operator who knows my numbers without opening the dashboard. I'm the kind of leader who does weekly one-on-ones, even in the weeks I don't want to. I am the kind of owner who builds systems my team can run without me. I'm the kind of operator who protects the brand, even when it costs revenue this quarter. Okay, guys, those are mine as a clinician and an operator. So I'd love for you to engage with us online too and tell me what yours actually are. Maybe mine land with you. Maybe yours is completely different. That's good too. Because here is the part that nobody talks about. Not all identities are created equal. And our industry, of all industries, is full of identities that look productive and aren't. The celebrity injector identity, the I'm a business person now identity, the social media first identity, and the top 1% identity. These are all identities people adopt and they generate behaviors. But the behaviors don't compound into clinical or operational excellence. They compound into something else: a brand, a persona, a following, which can be valuable, but it's not the same thing. So here is the test that I use. The identity that matters is the one that shows up on a Tuesday at 4 p.m. when no one is around and no one is watching. If the identity only shows up when there is an audience, it's a brand. And brands are useful. Don't get me wrong. A clinic needs a brand, but a brand without an underlying identity is just a marketing campaign with a person attached. And that doesn't compound either. So when you pick an identity to adopt, and I'm going to ask you to pick one before this episode is over, make sure it's tied to a behavior you can actually live, not a behavior that just lives online on Instagram. There's one more piece of this that I want to make sure you hear. I talk about this a lot with my team. Clear talks about how every action is a vote for the type of person you're becoming. Every consult you debrief, it's a vote for the clinician you say you are. Every photo you log, it's a vote. Every one-on-one you hold, vote. Every time you refer a case out that you could have done yourself but shouldn't, that's a vote. And every time you skip those things, that's also a vote. for a different identity, for the one you would rather not be. The last big concept, and this is one that honestly I needed most this year, and my team and I talk about this. Clear has this metaphor, and I can't stop thinking about it. Imagine an ice cube sitting in a room. The room starts at 25 degrees Celsius. Slowly, the temperature climbs 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Nothing happens. The ice cube just sits there, and you'd look at it and say, whatever you're doing isn't working. Then the temperature hits 32 degrees, and that ice melts. Nothing about the journey from 25 to 31 looked productive until the exact moment that it did. This is what Clear calls the plateau of latent potential. And it is the single most important concept in this book for our industry, in my opinion, because everything we do in aesthetic medicine is lagged. Clinical skill lags reps by years. The injector who reviews cases nightly doesn't pull ahead of their peers for like 12 to 18 months. And inside that window, the work feels invisible. Brand reputation lags execution by quarters. The clinic with disciplined photography, a consistent voice, patient-first messaging, well, they don't outcompete the loud clinic for a year or two. Then it does, permanently. Retention, it compounds invisibly. A 5-point improvement in your 12-week return rate looks like nothing month 1, but month 18, that's your entire growth story. Team culture, it takes longer to build than to break. And the operator who invests in one-on-ones, training, and feedback, they don't see that lower turnover number for over a year. But then they have a team that compounds, and their competitors can't even keep their staff. See what I'm saying here? And here's where I have to be honest with you, okay? I fell off, thankfully, just on the personal side of things when I was going through the Kairos transition. At work, building Kairos, I knew that they had to be there. And I knew that there would be a lag between effort and visible results, that would get wider, that lag with a new clinic, a new brand, new systems, new everything. And I knew we needed little dopamine hits to feel good about the things we were doing because we had a long lag ahead of us, okay? Habits I'd built over the years are reinforced by visible outcomes. You can see them working. And when you can't see them working anymore, your nervous system stops getting that reinforcement of the behavior, and it can become a feedback problem. It's not a discipline problem. And I want to name that because I think a lot of you have lived it. And I don't think that anyone has told you that collapse was not a character failure. It was a predictable consequence of trying to maintain an output dependent habit in a season where your outputs are lagged. Here's the fix, and it's simple and it's uncomfortable. Track inputs, not outputs. Count the cases you reviewed. Count the photos you logged. Count the one-on-ones you held. Count the consults you debriefed, the rebooking conversations you had. Give your nervous system the reinforcement that outputs would normally provide, but they can't because your outputs are still in the lag, okay? You got to make the inputs visible, make them countable, and make them satisfying. Because when you stop seeing the results, it's not always evidence that the system is broken. It's evidence that you may be inside of the lag. One more thing on this, and then we'll move on, okay? The reason this concept is so hard to internalize is that our industry sells the exact opposite story. The conferences, the courses, the injectors with hundreds of thousands of followers. The narrative is fast growing, fast results, fast scale. And when you're sitting inside of your plateau doing that invisible work, you look around at all of that and you conclude your own work isn't working. Here's the truth I want you to hold on to. What you see on social media is the visible portion of someone else's plateau. The injector posting a flawless before and after has had thousands of unposted cases behind it. The clinic posting record months has years of unposted slow months behind it. The plateau is invisible by definition, and comparing your inside to someone else's outside is the fastest way to just ditch and abandon a system that was about to work. We have covered three really big ideas here: systems over goals, identity based habits, the plateau of latent potential. And now I want to give you something practical, something you can use on a Monday morning. James Clear, the author, he lays out 4 laws of behavior change. I'm going to walk you through each one fast with a clinic specific example for each. And this is the part where if you're not driving, listening to this podcast, you might want to take some notes. Okay. Law number 1, make it obvious. This is about environmental design. The right behavior needs to be in your line of sight. The wrong behavior has got to be out of it, okay? Where do your consult forms live? If the provider has to go searching for them, they won't be filled out consistently. If they auto open when the schedule loads, they will. Is your photography is it set up and ready for before the patient arrives, or is someone like searching for the camera and iPad every time? Friction, it kills compliance. And if the right behavior takes 3 steps and the wrong one takes 1, guess what? That wrong one will win every single time. So here's the question I want you to ask. What is the one behavior in your clinic that you keep meaning to do? And what's the smallest environmental change that would make it harder not to do? Second law, make it attractive. Pair the habit you want with something your team already enjoys. Case reviews over a latte, right? Not as a Friday afternoon obligation that everyone resents. And here's the part that you may not be thinking of. The culture that you build determines what your team finds attractive. If excellence is celebrated, it becomes attractive. If gossip is tolerated, that's pretty attractive. If shortcuts are accepted, shortcuts become attractive. Your team is voting too every single day for an identity, the one that you are modeling. Third law, make it easy. Clear talks about the 2-minute rule. Any habit can be scaled down to a 2-minute version of itself. If charting takes 15 minutes, it will not happen consistently. But if it takes 2, it will. Standardize your photo protocol down to 2 minutes and your post-treatment instructions to a 1 tap, 1 send, right? Standardize your consult debrief to a 3-line voice memo. Here's the operator question I want you to sit with. What does your team do that should take 2 minutes, but currently takes 15? Because that is your very first system to fix. Fourth law, and this is where most owners are failing their teams. You gotta make it satisfying. Habits that aren't immediately rewarding, they die. And most owners ask their team for behaviors and never close the loop. They want their providers to log those photos and to do pre-checkout rebooking. They want their team to chart in real time, and they never recognize when it happens. And they never make it visible. They never celebrate it. And then they wonder why the behavior has died. Visible metrics, recognition in the team huddle, a whiteboard with the week's before and afters, a weekly shout out for the team member who hit the desired rebooking rate. That dopamine has to land the same day, because the business outcome, the revenue, the retention, the reputation, remember, that is months out. And your team can't wait that long for reinforcement. Nobody can. All right, we are at the end. And if you've made it this far, thank you. I know this was a longer one, but I think these conversations and topics matter for our industry. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick one identity statement, just one. I'm the kind of clinician who reviews every case, or I'm the kind of operator who runs weekly one-on-ones, or I'm the kind of leader who logs every before and after. Whatever it is, pick one. Then design the smallest possible system that produces a daily vote for that identity. 2 minutes, frictionless, visible, and satisfying. And track the input, not the output, for the next 30 days. And here's the line I want to leave you with. You are not going to out-discipline a bad system, and you're not going to out-system a weak identity. Build both. Start tomorrow. Start with one. If you want help doing this work, not just listening to me talk about it, I made you something. It's a one-page checklist for the Atomic Clinic, 5 habits to start tomorrow. It's fillable, printable, built specifically for our space. You can check out our show notes here to go grab that for free. There's no catch. And I genuinely love to hear what identity statement you picked. If you download the checklist, you'll get an email from me a few days later. Hit reply and tell me. We read every message and we can't wait to celebrate alongside of you. That's the episode. If this was useful, share it with one person in the industry who needs to hear it. That's how this podcast grows, and it's how this work spreads. Until next time. If this conversation helped you think differently about your practice, share it with someone else who's building with intention. And if you're ready to go deeper, you'll find more resources, training, and tools inside Kairos Aesthetic Training. Until next time, I'm Taylor Siemens. Stay curious, take action, and trust the timing of your growth.